3:45 a.m., Kyiv region. A low hum tore through the sky, then hundreds followed. Russia had just launched its biggest drone barrage of the war, nearly 500 drones racing toward Ukrainian cities from every direction. Explosions lit up the dark horizon. Power grids flickered, sirens howled, and entire neighborhoods went dark within minutes. But this wasn't the beginning of chaos. It was the start of something else. And no one, not even Moscow, expected what came next. The smoke clears and Ukraine strikes back. When dawn broke, the scale of the attack was staggering. Over 400 drones were intercepted, but dozens still got through, hitting residential areas, warehouses, and electrical substations. Yet, instead of breaking, Ukraine's resolve hardened. By mid-morning, reports of Ukrainian counterstrikes began spreading across Telegram channels and local media. Explosions rocked Russian border towns near Kursk and Belgorod. Unconfirmed footage showed fuel depots burning and ammunition trucks flipped in chaos. The night Russia meant to humiliate Ukraine had become the day Ukraine fought back harder than ever. Russia's gamble, the 500 drone storm. The 500 drone strike was more than intimidation, it was a strategic gamble. Russia launched the assault overnight, using darkness and heavy fog to overwhelm radar and confuse anti-air systems. Their objectives were simple: cripple Ukraine's energy grid, force panic across cities, stretch air defenses thin. But their overconfidence backfired. Ukrainian air defenses, powered by Patriot and IRIS-T systems, adapted mid-assault, shooting down the majority of incoming drones before they reached major urban centers. Still, the handful that slipped through left a trail of damage and fury. That fury became fuel. Within hours, the Ukrainian command was already plotting retaliation. Ukraine's counterstrike swift and surgical. At sunrise, Ukraine's drone units began mobilizing. Small, fast, and almost silent, they launched waves of FPV counterattacks toward Russian logistics lines. Explosions soon echoed across multiple Russian regions. Fuel storage depots, supply trucks, and communication towers were hit in what analysts described as coordinated retaliation. By midday, Russian channels were reporting fires across the Belgorod and Kursk oblasts. This wasn't just emotional payback. It was a strategic message. If you strike from the sky, we'll answer from the shadows. Every drone Ukraine launched carried a piece of defiance, proof that no matter how big Moscow's strikes became, Kyiv could still reach back and hurt the hand that hit first. But the real surprise wasn't the counterattack, it was how Ukraine pulled it off. Ghosts in the machine. 4:30 a.m., when signals go dark. As dawn light whispered across the battle-scarred skyline, Russia expected to see aerial dominance. Instead, they found emptiness. Across Russian-controlled border regions, military radars flickered, satellite links hiccuped, and some comm nodes reported jamming overload. Ukraine's retaliation didn't begin with missiles or mass troops. It started in the electromagnetic shadows. FPV drone squadrons, once thought disposable, were now being tethered to digital ghost networks, mesh comms, frequency hopping, AI fallback routines. Even when Russian electronic warfare systems blotted out uplinks, many drones kept flying autonomously. In Belgorod and Kursk oblasts, reports emerged of decommissioned radar sites being disabled, satellite dishes burning, and jammed drones continuing as if nothing had happened. Analysts watching the footage scratched their heads. How could a flood of RF white noise not stop all incoming signals? The answer: Ukraine layered redundancy into each strike. Enemy confusion, decoys, and deceit. One of Ukraine's cleanest tactics was subversion through misdirection. While dozens of small drone swarms attacked supply depots, dozens more, lighter models with no warhead served purely as decoys. Their goal: bait Russian systems into reacting. When Panzer systems lit up tracking on phantom targets, real drones slipped past. When EW operators swerved energy toward jamming the wrong band, the true vectors changed frequency midstream. It was like watching a magician's hand while the other played the trick. Russia found itself locked on ghosts, while the real strike danced unseen. In some test strike footage, a drone would split its route, half veering into a decoy corridor, the other half diving toward fuel depots. Russian systems, overloaded by flares, chaff, and synthetic IR signatures, chased the wrong swarm. That confusion allowed multiple drones to penetrate deep into logistic hubs. Storm in the skies. Russia frantically responds. By 5:15 a.m., the Russian response was rising from confusion to desperation. Command centers were issuing scrambled orders. Target this radar, intercept drones at 5,000 feet, lock weapons on incoming heat signatures. But many of those incoming were illusions. In one border town near Kursk, a Panzer battery fired relentlessly, consuming ammunition and rotating in wild gyrations. Operators reported tracking multiple targets, but footage later showed few real signatures. Meanwhile, actual drones weave beneath cloud cover, slipping past gaps in radar cones. Elsewhere, Russian EW nodes shifted from wide-range jamming to narrowband bursts, focusing all power on known drone control frequencies. That tactic overloaded power circuits and knocked out local electronics. But it still failed to shut down the autonomous swarms, which compensated with AI fallback modes. At one command post, an EW technician was heard over radio complaining, "The drones are disappearing off our screens, they keep reappearing in new bands." Panic was creeping into hardware rooms. What makes this different? This isn't 20th century air war. This is software warfare, where clever algorithms, preloaded pathing, and network drones override sheer force. A 500 drone barrage may roar with power, but a few dozen smart FPVs using digital resilience can slice through the seams. In earlier conflicts, losing command links meant mission failure. Now, losing links just forces a mode switch, fallback protocols, inertial navigation, swarm consensus. Ukraine's drones talked to each other, shared threat maps, and even rerouted together when one was lost. Ukraine didn't just hit back. It redefined what a counterattack looks like in an era when drones are smarter than soldiers. 6:15 a.m., when the firestorm kicks off. By early morning, Ukraine's Counterstrike had moved from probing interference into scorched earth precision. Synthetic chaos had opened corridors. Now drones plunged into vital Russian rear zones. Explosions bloomed near ammunition dumps, fuel stores, and command nodes deep inside Belgorod and Kursk regions. A video from a drone's POV shows a tracer of molten metal slicing through a storage tank, followed by a pillar of black smoke that climbed higher than nearby hills. The shockwave rippled outward, toppling nearby supply trucks like dominoes. Secondary blasts cascaded, munitions cooking off, fuel igniting, turning the area into a raging inferno. Russian air defenses, already scrambled, tried to respond. Anti-air guns hammered skyward, flares lit up, and decoys scattered. Panzer systems locked onto ghost signatures. EW nodes blasted power at narrow bands, but the corridors were already breached. The real drones were inside the walls by then. The domino effect, infrastructure shredded. The targets were carefully selected. Ukrainian strikes focused on rail hubs, supply convoys, fuel pipelines, and ammo dumps, the backbone of Russia's logistics. When thousands of tons of fuel ignited and rail lines melted, the supply chain snapped in multiple sectors. Communications towers went dark. Electrical substations in border towns failed in cascading blackout. A supply convoy carrying vehicle parts, fuel, and food blew apart under a rain of shrapnel. Russian infantry units less than 30 kilometers from the border suddenly found themselves cut off. No resupply, no forward command, no fuel to move. Within hours, Russian commanders shifted units from Donetsk and Luhansk to plug gaps near Kursk and Belgorod. That's tens of thousands of troops retasked, a ripple effect of repositioning and resource drain. Strategic shock, Ukraine's new edge. This counterstrike was more than retaliation. It revealed a new equilibrium in the war. From Moscow's perspective, the line between safe rear areas and front lines just blurred. Guards, depots, logistics, nothing stayed immune. Ukraine's message was clear. Modern war is no longer about who has more bombs, but who has smarter tools and sharper minds. For observers in Europe and beyond, it's a case study. Small, autonomous drones can dismantle giant supply chains. In diplomatic capitals from Brussels to Washington, the strike stirred debate. Some analysts now believe Russia may have to divert even more troops to its heartland defense, thinning their push in contested zones. Insurance markets for military supply companies, reconstruction planning in Ukraine, and war economics all shifted overnight. Reflection, power, innovation, and the future. This moment may come to be seen as a pivot in the Ukraine war, when asymmetric tech finally matched conventional force. What's at stake is not only territory, but the future logic of war itself. The 500-drone storm was intended to shatter morale. Instead, Ukraine turned it into an inflection point. With each drone return, each explosion in the enemy's rear, Ukraine reminded the world ingenuity is as potent as mass. So here it stands, a battlefield reborn. Russia's armies may be vast, but Ukraine's technological edge is the new front line. So tell me, where does the future of war lie when battles are fought by algorithms and swarms, and are we ready for wars with no front lines? The war in Ukraine is no longer just about territory. It's about innovation, endurance, and the will to adapt faster than your enemy. Every strike, every counter, feels like a glimpse into the future of global warfare. But if this is where technology is taking us, what happens when every nation can fight a war with machines instead of soldiers? If you found this story eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Who's really winning the war of innovation?